Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel where today I'm going to be talking about a really common and big dysregulator for many people, which is body image issues. So I'm going to start this video by helping you to decide for yourself if this is an issue for you by asking you some questions. And then once we go through that, I'm going to talk about how if you discover, yeah, I actually do have some body image issues, I'm going to give you the tools and the process that I've used to change that for myself and a lot of other people. I hope that this really helps you. So, getting right into it, here are the questions that I want you to answer for yourself. Have you ever looked in the mirror and had a stress response? Have you ever gone to try on bathing suits and gotten depressed? Have you become obsessed with makeup, clothing, doing your nails, and other beauty trends to try to feel better about how you look, only to still feel bad about yourself? Or do you only feel good about how you look when you're wearing that perfect makeup and that ideal outfit and your nails are all done and whatever else? Right? I would argue that that's not true body acceptance and body love if you need to put on all these external things in order to feel good about yourself. Is there something about your body that you feel ashamed of or you have tried to hide? Yep, I've been there. Have you always felt overweight or too large, even though your doctors and friends tell you your body is normal? Or are you actually overweight and you really struggle to just accept that, to make peace with what is right now? Even though you would like to be thinner in the future, do you struggle to just accept what is reality for you in this moment, the way your body looks currently? Do you believe that you need to look a certain way in order to be worthy of love or affection or intimacy, et cetera, et cetera? Sometimes this love and acceptance that we don't believe we're worthy of is really all about our own love and acceptance. Actually, that's pretty much always the case. So, do you feel unworthy of your own love and acceptance if you don't look a certain way or others? Do you punish yourself with self criticism, with awful, terribly restrictive diets, or excessive exercise to try to look the perfect way? And have you only ever felt worthy or valuable because of your body? And so you've strived always to perfect it in order to get more of that affirmation of your worth. So it's not a problem to value yourself because of the way you look. That's no issue. However, if that's the only reason that you find value in yourself, that is going to be a problem at some point. Even if right now your body is perfect, at some point down the line, it's going to change because bodies were meant to change through the course of our lifetime, right? And so I would argue that, if that is the situation that you're in, and you only feel worthy because of your body, that there's some work to be done there. There's something that you may want to rewire because it is best for your long-term well-being to feel worthy and valuable just because you exist, and definitely regardless of what your body looks like. So if you're struggling with any of those issues or other body image issues, you are so absolutely completely not alone. These issues are all incredibly common and probably almost universal, but we don't need to have them. Regardless of how we get them, which I'm very aware of with, societal pressures and whatnot, and what is considered beautiful these days, blah, blah, blah. I'm perfectly aware of how we get this patterning. However, you don't have to keep it, and you can actually rewire it so that you feel good about yourself, regardless of how you look. Let's talk about why this is such a big dysregulator, having issues with your own body. Well, number one, you can't escape your body, right? It's really hard to avoid looking in the mirror sometimes or having to choose what to eat, when to exercise, buying new clothes, looking at other people's bodies, being seen naked during intimacy, and any number of other life circumstances that can trigger these self worth issues to come to the surface. Although I do have clients who have tried to avoid as many of these triggers as possible so as not to be in constant emotional pain, obviously they can't succeed with that 100% of the time. And when you think to yourself, I'm ugly, or I'm too fat, or I should be taller, I have too much cellulite, or my butt is too small, or I hate my smile, whatever your particular dislike of your body is, you're actually sending the message to your subconscious that something is wrong with me, which to your subconscious translates to something is wrong, which means threat, right? So when you send these messages to yourself, you actually are triggering a survival response. As you know, I'm all about getting people regulated in their day to day life so that they can have good health. So that's how this can be a big issue. And every time you have a negative emotional response to something about your body, you actually reinforce to your subconscious that the way your body is a threat. And so the stress and emotional reaction is likely to actually get stronger over time if you repeat that reaction over and over again. That's just part of how the brain works. Whatever we repeat or practice, we get better at. It gets stronger in our neurology and it's more likely to fire more easily in the future. One reason our standards of perfection for our bodies are really detrimental is because our bodies naturally change over the course of our lives. It's literally inevitable, right? For a variety of reasons. One, for women, we cycle throughout the month. And if you have a healthy menstrual cycle, if you're in that phase of life, your body is going to change throughout the cycle, sometimes retaining more water weight during the latter half, just as one example. Also, as women, some of us have babies, which dramatically changes our bodies, of course, naturally. That makes sense. But regardless of your sex, we all age. Our tissues become less elastic. Things begin to sag and wrinkle. Our metabolism slows down. We naturally retain more weight. Appetite decreases oftentimes with age. So, all kinds of things change as we age, right? But one thing is constant: our bodies are absolutely going to age. And then, of course, there's another way our bodies tend to change throughout life, not just the typical course of growth and development, but also sometimes illness changes our bodies in ways that are outside of our control, permanently or for a while, right? You know, some people have injuries and lose the use of their legs, right? And they're in a wheelchair. That's obviously quite permanent, right? And something that, if that is your situation, we ideally need to help you find peace with that, and real peace. I don't mean like grin and bear it kind of peace. I mean, you actually are okay with it. You have accepted it and you truly, truly feel that like deep in your bones. But other things can happen in illness, right? We get rashes, we retain weight from inflammation. Maybe we lose too much weight because of malabsorption or something like that. Or we may even lose muscle mass because we can't work out for a while. Or, maybe a disease process causes us to get dark circles under our eyes from lack of sleep. Or our smile may change from dental work or whatever. So many things could possibly happen that could change your body. And so when that happens, sometimes these body image issues really reveal themselves, right? Maybe we didn't realize our feelings of identity and self-worth were so wrapped up in what our body looks like. And then suddenly our body changes and we don't like it. And then it's like, whoa, this is actually a really big deal. When we hold a standard of unchanging perfection for our bodies, we will inevitably fail to meet that standard at some point. And for those with this standard, it will be very stressful and emotionally painful. And the stress and emotional reaction to the way we think our body should be then dysregulates our nervous system because the subconscious responds to our reaction as though we are in danger, puts us into a survival state. And now we're actually standing in the way of our own healing. So I had to face this in myself pretty intensely at several points in my healing journey. At the age of 19, when I first got sick, I lost like a huge percentage of my body weight despite working out at the same amount and eating a normal diet. I basically lost the vast majority of my muscle mass due to the disease process, which was the first big change in my body that really challenged my identity around my body. And then later on, when I got parasites and SIBO and SIFO all at the same time, I became so incredibly inflamed that I gained a bunch of water weight and I could not shed it for anything for a long time because I hadn't figured out that toxic mold and stress were beneath all of these infections being so successful in my body. And during that time, my pant size went up. I developed cellulite in places I didn't think was possible to have cellulite, at least at my age. And I just didn't feel like myself. I felt a lot of shame about it. And I told myself that I was a failure and a fraud being a healthcare practitioner that didn't look healthy. And it changed the way I dressed. I felt insecure. Especially being naked with my partner, I felt stress and shame about the way I looked whenever I was with other people. Around that same time, I also developed a rash on my face. And I tried to cover it up, as many people probably would in that situation. I tried a lot of anti inflammatory topicals and oral supplements and whatever I could, basically, to reduce the appearance of it. But it was evident even when I had makeup on, and I went from looking like a 30-year-old to a 45-year-old because the texture of my skin was so different. And it took me years to figure out that this rash was a fungal infection, and it was made worse by my gut issues at the time, and all this was caused by toxic mold weakening my immune system, as well as my limbic system dysfunction. Absolutely, that was a part of the weakening of my immune system too. The rash also brought up shame and grief, anger, resentment, and this desperation to fix it. It also triggered the old something's wrong with me wound that began for me well before my appearance ever suffered. But now it became much more painful because others could see my damage. And when I found brain training, I knew that I had to make peace with my body because it was causing me a lot of stress. I felt like my body had betrayed me and I was fighting against it. But in reality, no, we had a common enemy the whole time, and we were both just doing the best that we could at that time. The rash was actually the evidence of my body trying to fight that enemy, but not succeeding entirely. So, with time and dedication of using the neuroplasticity tools that I was learning at that time, I got to a place of peace and acceptance with the state of my body, even though it still had a rash, even while I was still retaining some extra body weight from that inflammation. And it would be several more years before I would be able to resolve the rashes. But in the meantime, my life experience was much less stressful and my nervous system was much better regulated, which improved other aspects of my health dramatically too. So let me share one more story with you. This is one of my clients who had Ehlers-Danlos and was overweight due to that condition, but also other factors too. So this person, she had inherited body image issues and food relationship issues from her mother and grandma. Basically, all her childhood, she watched them hate on their bodies out loud and cope with their self hatred and stress with food. And then they also encourage that to their children. Also, as a young person, she always felt different from others due to her chronic health symptoms. She felt a lot of emotional pain related to that and rejection, including rejecting herself for that. And then all that emotional pain led to her eating to cope with the pain. And then that led to more self hatred, more self punishment with painful exercise regimens that were not suited to Ehlers Danlos, as well as starvation dieting, which we now know causes a yo yo effect and really isn't very successful. Doing all of that then led to resentment about having to do this and feeling like a failure and not wanting to continue. And then just settling into this feeling like, I guess I'll always be this way. And then swinging back into overeating to cope. It was just a really terrible, vicious cycle, right? Through working together, what happened is we rewired a lot of the experiences from childhood that had led her into this pattern in the first place, as well as all of her negative emotional associations to her body, including specific body parts. Yes, if you have only specific body parts, let's say, you're perfectly fine with most of your body, but you absolutely hate your butt. Well, I can tell you very confidently that you can actually rewire your emotional response to thinking about or looking at your butt. That kind of thing we did together. We also rewired her brain to stop this cycle of self punishment. It's a really common strategy that people have when trying to lose weight, that they punish themselves into the activities that they think will help them lose weight, right? So they say nasty things to themselves like, "Oh, you're too fat," or "You're ugly," or, "You don't deserve that boyfriend," or whatever it is. And that is how they get themselves to go work out or to eat healthy or whatever. And I'm here to tell you that that doesn't work. So let me explain why. When you punish yourself into making change, what happens is a yo-yo effect. So you start making those changes, you go, you exercise, and you start eating healthy, blah, 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 and you start seeing some improvement, some change in your body. You feel good about that. Well, as soon as you start to feel good again, boom, you're right back into the old patterning, right? You will go back to eating your emotions and not working out and whatever because the pain got better, at least temporarily, right? And then once you've done that again for a while, your old patterning, and you start to gain a little weight again, then you'll go back to self punishing and then back to the gym and their super restrictive diet, right? So you never actually reach where you want to go when that is your motivational approach. So we rewired that, and I taught her the approach that I have found works a lot better for people. And that is a self loving approach. So that means that once you dissipate all those feelings around hating your body and feeling betrayed by it and whatever else is going on, you dissipate all the negative emotional associations to your body. And then what you do in terms of neural retraining is you actually start practicing and facilitating those feelings of acceptance and self-love and, you know, whatever else it is that you want to feel towards your body that would actually serve you and feel good. And we have specific ways of going about that. And then once you've done that, it actually becomes a lot easier to implement a new approach to a healthy lifestyle. So you can then say, okay, well, what would feel like the most loving way to me to go and move my body? Like a lot of times people are like, oh, I go to the gym because that's what everybody else seems to do to lose weight, but I hate it. But let's be real, that's not the only way to lose weight. And it's not the only way to move your body. And so I encourage people to actually consider, what would you like to do to move your body? And you would be amazed at how much easier it is to get yourself to move your body if you're actually doing something you enjoy, right? It could be something as simple as like, I love tending to the farm animals and scooping manure. Who cares? If that's what you love to do, great, do that for exercise. But a lot of times people will say, well, I love dancing, or I love doing exercise in nature, kayaking, or whatever. It doesn't matter what it is, but you're going to be more successful sticking to it if it's something you actually like, right? And so the next thing to do is really to say, well, what would feel most loving to me in the long term as a way to eat. And I would suggest that's never going to be those super calorically restricted diets that feel really, really hard. It's going to be a more balanced approach that is a healthy diet, but not extreme, right? Where you actually feel nourished, you have some things you can eat that are really tasty, blah, 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 blah. And so when you take that approach and you've also done this groundwork I mentioned, losing weight becomes a lot easier. And so that's what happened for this person is she started eating broccoli because she was like, I actually really like broccoli and I don't know why I haven't been eating it. And she was like, I actually really like dancing. And so I'm going to start doing that more instead of punishing myself at the gym. This is especially important when it comes to somebody who's struggling with other health issues like she was, like Ehlers-Danlos, like what is good for her body is it's going to be different from what is good for the next body. And so we really do need to take this self-loving approach to taking care of our bodies so that we don't actually cause harm by doing something that would be great for somebody else. So she was able to make this shift to self love, to self compassion, to listening to her own body's needs and desires, eating and exercise choices as an act of self love and emotionally coping with stress in healthier ways, right? So that's another common piece of this puzzle is if your biggest issue is around weight and it's related to emotional eating, you can teach your brain very effectively to cope in other ways. And that's an important piece of it is to not just say, okay, brain, I don't want you to cope that way, but you actually have to give the brain an alternative, right? We all need coping mechanisms because stress is a real thing and it affects our bodies very intensely as well as our brains and our motivations, right? So we have to attend to that in some other way. So these stories lead into talking about what the goal is in working on body image issues of any kind. It is first and foremost dissipating all the negative emotions that you feel towards your body, rewiring the painful memories related to your body, and the toxic belief systems about your body. As an example, I had a client who grew up with a mother who had body dysmorphia, and she was always too skinny for her height. This was her mother. She worked out 3 hours a day to Jane Fonda, and she never ate enough calories. And she bragged about it to her young daughters and encouraged them to do the same. She even went so far as to weigh her daughters and comment with disappointment at their weight. She even told my client that the reason she had to pee in the middle of a run was because she was too heavy and had too much weight on her bladder. Woo! Yeah, that's pretty intense, right? All the while, my client was always told that she was a normal weight for her age and size at the doctor's office. So this was really confusing to her, but it led to massive self hatred, shame, self criticism, grief, withdrawing from relationships, and an obsession with her weight later in life. And this came on when she gained a bunch of weight after having a baby and developing a health condition that prevented her from being able to exercise. So, this is one of those examples of where the issue was always there, but it wasn't totally obvious because she was meeting those standards of her mother for most of her life up until this pregnancy. So the first step for her was rewiring these and other unhelpful experiences that set up her belief systems about how she should look and the importance of weight. We dissipated all the emotional pain from these events until she could truly feel how ridiculous they were. Her mother's patterning, which clearly her mother couldn't see, or she would never have put that on her daughters. And the next step was to rewire whatever was left of the beliefs she had formed from those experiences and others in her life. So we dissipated all the emotions that were supporting these beliefs until they no longer felt true at all. And we were able to also strengthen some new beliefs that truly served her and felt good. So, due to her childhood conditioning, she had beliefs fueling her reaction to her current body size, like, I must be thin in order to be lovable and valued and worthy, or I'm a failure for being unable to lose weight, or I'll never lose weight because of I have X, Y, and Z diagnoses. And the final one, which was quite painful, of course, was I'm ugly. So we also worked on imagining and countering some of her triggers with her weight and teaching the brain to feel calm and at peace in those situations. For her, these were things like seeing and spending time with her parents who were still alive, or looking in the mirror, especially when naked, right? To reinforce the new feelings of self love and acceptance of her body, she was given homework to practice just this: waking up every day, looking in the mirror, and feeling gratitude for all that her body was doing for her and all the challenges that it had gotten her through. Since she had formed a strong habit of believing she would never lose the weight, I also gave her homework to practice envisioning herself 6 months to a year from now, having lost all the weight, doing all the physical activities she'd been wanting to do but unable to do, and gifting herself with healthy habits that made her body healthy and happy. And this served as instructions for her subconscious to expect this outcome as well as produce it for her. And so our work together improved her POTS symptoms so quickly that she was able to start exercising again and working towards her goal while also loving and feeling good about herself, just as she is right now. She was actually able to rewire her body image issues in an amazingly fast period of time. I think it was like 1.5 sessions, and then she just continued to reinforce it. So, here are the steps I would suggest to you for preparing yourself to rewire your body image issues. Number one, write down all the experiences you have had around appearance, weight, or related issues that you can remember that made it feel so important for you to look a certain way, or experiences where you felt punished or hurt by not looking a certain way, right? Whether it was bullying or somebody just made a unkind comment or whatever else. Bring those to brain retraining processes. We have a lot of different types of processes in the Wired for Wellness program that can achieve that for you. So you don't necessarily have to do this in private sessions, or you could. It's really up to you. Number two, write down all the stressful or limiting beliefs you hold about your body and what it means about you if your body doesn't, quote, look perfect. You should also write down beliefs about how bodies should look in general, and beliefs about how you will suffer if your body doesn't look a certain way. Essentially, those are the things that your brain is using to go, oh, it's dangerous to not look that way. And then it's going to freak out, obviously, if you don't. So you can rewire these as well using, some of the processes in the Wired for Wellness program or with a really skilled neural retraining practitioner. And you can actually get them to the point where they just don't feel true anymore. And that is when you are really free to start reinforcing new beliefs about yourself. And I would suggest that one of the most important beliefs to reinforce and support emotionally so that it becomes your new default is that I am worthy and lovable no matter what my body looks like. I am worthy and lovable inherently just because I exist. And when that is your true belief system, then as things flux and change, whether it is your body or something else, like, oh, I can't do that job anymore because I injured my back, or I had to give up my favorite hobby because I had a baby and I had too much to do. Whatever it is, whenever our identity is challenged by a change in our circumstances, then that means it's not going to instantly challenge your feelings of being good enough or worthy to exist or to be in relationship. And then next, write down all the negative emotions you feel about your body. And if the first two steps of rewiring the memories and beliefs don't totally dissipate how you feel about your body, then it's time to dissipate these remaining emotions that come up about your body. And finally, I like to finish this work up by doing the mirror exercise. What is the mirror exercise? Well, it is when you stand in front of the mirror, you start at your feet, and you work your way up your body, stopping at every body part that induces a negative emotional response in yourself. Focus on that body part and then use the neural retraining exercises that we give you in the Wired for Wellness program to basically send the message to your brain that it's actually safe to feel neutral or even gratitude for that body part, right? Because while that body part may not look how you would prefer, it is still part of your body, the only body that you get. And it's still doing incredible things for you. Literally every single aspect of your body, starting at the cellular level and working up to the macroscopic level, is incredible. It's a freaking miracle. It's so unbelievably complex. I don't think we will ever know everything about it and really be able to comprehend that as a totality. So, yes, there is a lot to be grateful for your body. Even if your thighs have cellulite, they're still carrying you around, right? They're still getting you from A to B. That is something to be wildly grateful for, because can you imagine not having legs? Wouldn't it be better to have legs with cellulite than to have no legs? Right. Yeah, there's so much to be grateful for every single body part. So that is what I suggest people teach their brain to feel as the new default about all parts of their body. And then what you do after you do that groundwork is then you cement all of this by practicing feeling love and gratitude for your body. We have a self love process as well as a gratitude process in the Wired for Wellness program that can help you do this regularly and really stay focused on it until it becomes easy and natural for you to feel that way automatically. And that's the whole magic about brain rewiring, is that however you feel today, whatever is your normal right now, does not have to be your emotional norm in the future. You can teach your brain to feel however you want it to feel about the circumstances of life. All right, so that's all I have for you on this topic. If you found this video helpful, please like it, comment on it, and subscribe if you want to hear more of this. All of that really helps other people to find this content so that they can benefit from the information too. And if you want to rewire your body image patterning, use the links, around this video, under this video, I don't know, depending on where you find it, to reach out and get started. It's really not that difficult. And I promise you that it will serve you well for the rest of your life. All right. Thanks for listening, guys. And I'll see you in the next video.